red cards,
He's been sent off.
injuries,
Reports in Norway claim that Martin Odegaard may be out for 3 weeks.
set pieces.
Arsenal have taken the lead.
It's been an up and down season for Arsenal, but they are still pushing through. The ship might have been rocked a few times, but Arteta has solidified the squad. Some might have already counted the Gunners out,
Arsenal 4.9% chance of winning the title.
but they are still very much contenders. So how exactly has Arteta kept everything together when it felt like it was all falling apart? Going into the new season, there were big expectations on Arteta. He was much further in his project now, had gotten the signings he wanted, and the team looked reinforced. The 2023 and 2024 season were a reminder that the margins are tiny, so any boost that the likes of Marino and Calafiori could give to the team was essential. The season started off great, a 2-0 win over Wolves, with Saka reminding people that he is absolutely one of the very best players in the league. Then the next week, a massive result, a 2-0 away win against Aston Villa. Villa are a dangerous side now. They are a club that are difficult to beat. In fact, in the 2024 season, they had done the league double over Arsenal. But I feel like this fixture is always even bigger because there's a section of fans that believe Unai Emery would be doing a better job for Arsenal than Arteta. It's always an ongoing debate, which is crazy to me because I do think that Emery's a very good manager, but I also think it was blatantly obvious that he couldn't stay at the Arsenal job. While Arsenal ended up winning 2-0, with Arteta reminding fans that there's a reason that he is the one in charge. The 2-0 win meant that Arsenal had won their first 2 games in a top-flight campaign without conceding for only the 3rd time in their history, after previously doing it in 1925 and 1972. But after just 2 match days, problems arose for Arteta. New signing Mikel Marino, who had just joined the club, got a shoulder injury in training. He would be out of action for weeks. Gabriel Jesus and Tomiyasu were also injured. As a result, in the game against Brighton, Arteta had to name 4 academy players on the bench because he didn't have enough senior players, and Arsenal's 2 deadline day signings were not registered to play. Then things got even more difficult for Arteta 4 minutes into the second half, when Rice picked up the first red card of his career. A very controversial decision, by the way. You see, before halftime, João Pedro had booted the ball away after the ball had gone out near the halfway line. An incident that was arguably worse than what Rice did.
Amazed because how inconsistent decisions can be. In the first half, there are 2 incidents, nothing happens.
Unlike Rice though, Pedro wasn't penalized. He wasn't even spoken to by the referee. In Rice's case, the ball was still clearly moving before he nudged it away. So if Veltman had tried to take the free kick quickly, it would have had to be retaken anyways because according to Law 13.2, the ball must be stationary. Rice's touch also barely delayed anything. The ball was close enough that if Veltman had just stuck his boot out, he could have rolled the ball back to where it was. Well, Brighton ended up equalizing in the 58th minute. 10 men Arsenal had fought hard, and they were able to pull out at least a draw. But when they had 11 players, not only were they leading, but they were actively dominating Brighton. So now we go into international break, and it's another disaster for Arteta. Odegaard suffered an ankle injury during Norway's game against Austria, and Calafiori also returned with a calf injury. So now Arteta had no midfield options and once again was forced to name academy players to the bench going into the North London derby. Arteta did what he had to. Without his most creative player, he played a more pragmatic 4-4-2 system to counter Ange's possession football. Arsenal ended up scoring off a set piece. Surprise, surprise. Set pieces, by the way, thanks to the help of Nicolas Jover, are a massive reason why Arteta has been able to keep Arsenal's head above water in tough situations. But I'll get to that later in the video. With the win against Tottenham, Arteta made history again. The Gunners had won 6 consecutive Premier League away matches for the first time since 2013. And they had won 3 consecutive away North London derbies for the first time since 1988. What Arteta has done for Arsenal when it comes to away games is so impressive. Arsenal often struggled away from home, especially against the traditional Big 6 teams. They would get out-muscled out of games, but not anymore. Between the physicality of the players and how good they are from set pieces, nobody wants to play Arsenal. Having said that, without Odegaard, Arsenal's attack did not look good. They did not create many chances against Atalanta and were only able to come away with a point thanks to Raya. By the way, Raya is a perfect example of Arteta always finding ways to upgrade the team. When he initially brought Ramsdale, he was already being criticized for bringing in a goalie that had only been on relegation teams. Then as soon as Ramsdale started to establish himself as a good goalie, Arteta brought in Raya. Now people were complaining that Arsenal are wasting money by picking up 2 goalies. But Arteta saw the bigger picture.
Aaron Ramsey wasn't good enough, and now you have signed another keeper, and it's a catastrophe. But Aaron Ramsey wasn't good enough for Arsenal.
Raya was an upgrade in every single department. Better shot stopper, better with his feet, and more importantly, had a strong mentality.
Concentrate on a game of football for 90 minutes. I'm finished, I can't do it.
Champions League or Premier League?
Both.
Raya has that winner's mentality that Arteta wants to establish in his side. A mentality that was really shown in the game against City. Arsenal versus City has become a heated rivalry lately. Mainly because of the fact that they've been the two horses in the title race, but also the whole Arteta versus Pep angle always adds to the rivalry, the whole student versus teacher thing. Despite not having Odegaard, Arsenal were actually playing great against City, much more direct than the way they had played at the Etihad in the previous season. Despite going down early to a Haaland goal, they came back to equalize with a stunner from their new signing Calafiori, then took the lead from a set piece from Gabriel, who has turned into prime Ramos now. But then, disaster again for Mikel Arteta. Similar to what happened to Rice against Wolves, Trossard was sent off for kicking the ball away and delaying a restart by Michael Oliver. Now you know the saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? That's how I would describe this situation. Given what had happened to Arsenal earlier in the season, it was dumb on Trossard's part to put himself in that situation again. With Rice, it was at the beginning of the season, so it was a shock to everyone. But now, the whole team should have known that these refs are trying to set a precedent. Despite this lapse of judgment though, Arteta set the team up in the deadliest low block possible, and they almost won.
To create an atmosphere that makes it really good for our players, really difficult for the opponent.
People hated on it, but it was genius from the Spaniard.
Well, I prefer this much more than somebody clapping my back after the game saying, well done, you guys are in the right direction.
They were up 2-1, down to 10 men, playing away from home against the best team in the country. Had they not parked the bus, they would have handed City a free win. At this time, Arsenal were still winning games, but without Odegaard, they were relying heavily on Saka and set pieces. They beat Leicester, but that 4-2 scoreline didn't do the game justice. It was a very close win that came from 2 goals in stoppage time. The winner being an own goal that came from, you guessed it, a set piece. Against PSG, Havertz scored a header and Saka scored directly off a free kick. Like I said, with Odegaard not being in the team, Saka was the one carrying. He put on an absolute masterclass against Southampton, being involved in all 3 goals. With more responsibility on his shoulders, the star boy was shining. I would say on top of Saka, Trossard really stepped up as well. He played really well in a more central role in that 4-4-2. At times though, it didn't look pretty.
We joked Arsenal is the new Stoke City, right?
It is very Tony Pulis-esque. Yes, sometimes Arsenal do look like Stoke City, but you gotta do what you gotta do to get the 3 points. But that good run of form ended late October. As if missing Odegaard wasn't bad enough, now against Bournemouth, they were missing Saka as well. They had zero creativity to begin with, but then things got even worse. In the 30th minute, another red card. This one wasn't for time wasting, but it still remained a controversial decision. Saliba was initially given a yellow card, but the referee upgraded his decision to a red after being instructed to check the pitch side monitor by the VAR. Arsenal ended up losing 2-0. Their first defeat of the season, and their first away loss in the Premier League in 2024. 3 times now they had dropped points due to a red card. In the next game against Liverpool, Saka pulled out a moment of magic and Merino scored his first goal for Arsenal, but they ended up drawing. Given the fact that they had no Odegaard and Saliba was suspended, and the fact that Liverpool are one of the best teams in the league, it wasn't that bad of a result. The problems arose when they lost to Newcastle in the next game. Winless in 4 games, 2 points from a possible 12, people were writing Arsenal off.
Yeah, it feels like Arsenal are choking at the wrong time. Normally when the pressure's on towards the end of the season, they have a little wobble, but...
They were making it out like Arsenal were having disciplinary issues and that they had already blown their chances of winning the title.
We're talking about the fact that we've been sent off for what?
3 times, drop points in 3 matches.
But despite all of this, Arteta steadied the ship. People were blaming him, but he had kept Arsenal's head above water despite lapses in judgment from individual players and injuries to key players. It shouldn't really come as a surprise that teams naturally struggle when one of their best players gets injured, and that's exactly what Odegaard is to Arsenal, one of their very best players. The game also comes down to margins. If Martinelli scores against Bournemouth, Arsenal could have come away with 3 points even though they were down to 10 men. Now with players coming back from injury, they're back to playing free-flowing football. Yes, Arsenal are scoring a lot of set pieces, but they are still scoring plenty of goals through open play, especially since the return of Odegaard. The set pieces to me are one of many examples of Arteta bringing back the physicality that once made Arsenal great. The size and strength of players like Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, Partey, it's a throwback to the Arsenal teams of the early 2000s. Warriors. Other teams won't like it, but you have to do whatever it takes to win. Arsenal are still in a great position to win trophies. It was an ugly period, but the media made it seem a lot worse than it was. Arteta is doing his best to keep the momentum going. Fans just need to be patient. Arteta hasn't been perfect by any means, but his pieces are all coming together. You have to remember that it was only a few seasons ago that Arsenal weren't considered an elite team. Now, they're one of the toughest teams to play against in Europe. One thing that I wish Arteta had done more though, especially when Odegaard was out, was play Ethan Nwaneri. To see how Arsenal casually have one of the best youngsters in the world just sitting on their bench, you gotta watch this video right here.